and we're going to get started. I'm Reverend Curtis Gatewood, C-U-R-T-I-S, Curtis Gatewood, Gatewood. I am the founder of Stop Killing Us Solutions Campaign, also known as SKU, S-K-U. Also, I'm the founder of Justice Administration, which is a nonprofit which gave birth to the Stop Killing Us Solutions Campaign. And we are happy to have you here. We were trying to give some of the marchers a little bit of time because there's somewhat of a conflict here in schedule. Okay, here's some of our friends that are coming here. But we want to make sure people understand why some of us took it upon ourselves to make a stand in a very dangerous situation, and we ended up being arrested. Many of you are aware on Tuesday, I think that's when it was initiated, and then there have been a few arrests since Tuesday. But during the time we heard about the curfew, I knew right away that was a problem. It was an abridgment of the constitutional amendment under the First Amendment, which gives all people the opportunity who are part of the United States of America to peacefully assemble, to petition their government, and to make sure that if we have a problem or question regarding our government, we have the freedom to say so. What took place on Tuesday was a decision, from what I understand from the mayor, to have a curfew that would demand that all citizens who are partaking in the civil disobedience, or the peaceful protests, to be off the streets by 8 p.m. As you know, many people are just getting home at 8 p.m. In some instances, people are not doing anything other than being peaceful. All of the protests thus far have been peaceful. There has been no looting. There has been no shooting. There has been no burning down a particular precinct or setting a particular police car on fire. It's been a very peaceful protest. And so, therefore, it was in line with the Constitution of the United States of America. We do know there are times when people have to somewhat call for a curfew for the safety of all citizens or residents or humans. So we understand that time may come. But in Elizabeth City, it did not come, and it was not here on Tuesday. Therefore, some of us took it upon ourselves to say, we must stand right here. Because what we read about, at least what I've read about oppression, is the oppressor will never decide that I've oppressed you enough or I've had my knee on you enough. It will always take resistance from those who are being oppressed. So therefore, when we were informed that we had to be off the streets by 8 o'clock, in spite of the fact that the protests had been peaceful, then we knew it was time to take a stand. That is why I sat down on the streets at around 8:30 p.m. and decided we're not going to go off the streets because what is being requested is an unjust law. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., in fact, said it best. He said, we have an obligation to abide by a just law. And at the same time, we have a moral obligation to resist an unjust law. And therefore, that is what we had on Tuesday. And from what I understand, the decision has been reversed. And so it was the right decision to extend it at least to 12. Actually, we did not need a curfew. But if you're going to take it all the way back to 12 o'clock, I'm not sure if that's something that we need to argue about right now. because most people I know are probably in the bed by 12. Another thing we want to do is we want to emphasize how those arrested were not, and I repeat, were not the violators. The people who were arrested were not the violators, but were in fact the advocates for justice. They also, again, were defending the constitutional rights that has been provided that will protect our rights if the Constitution is followed. We're here to say, regarding the officers, the deputies, we're seeing a pattern of things that are coming from the authorities here that seem to be instigating the citizens, escalating the tension, rather than de-escalating and making sure that we can remain peaceful. It takes a lot of restraint when you go to such an extent, as we saw with our dear brother Andrew Brown Jr., the way in which he was murdered by people who professed to be law enforcement. The act was unlawful and only enforced racism. It enforced a double standard that we are not seeing when we compare what is going on when white males are arrested versus what happens when black people are arrested. Therefore, that creates a problem for us. The way we measure discrimination in the civil rights community is we compare the treatment of a similar situation to our white counterparts. And if there is a double standard, then it's time for us to stand up and say so. Around this country, there is a double standard in how black people are being treated by law enforcement versus how whites are treated, especially white males. For example, you know about Boulder, Colorado, where a white man went into the building and shot as many people as he could, had every kind of high-powered weapon, even killed a police officer, and he was arrested alive. He was taken in alive. We know of the instance in Charleston, South Carolina, where Dalen Root came into the church, and he actually murdered people who were only interested in having Bible study, and they showed him hospitality. Yet he took a weapon, high-powered weaponry, into the church, and he murdered the people right there in cold blood, and he received a ride to Burger King. He went in alive. So we're seeing a pattern that is very disturbing as it pertains to whites versus black regarding law enforcement. And the next thing I want to say, and I'm going to cut it short, there's an inferior standard that we see in law enforcement in general in the United States of America. It's an inferior standard. It does not meet the standard of the U.S. Constitution. It does not meet the standard of international law. It does not meet the standard of a justice standard. It does not meet a moral standard. It is an inferior standard. This is why I say so. If you would use something like a no-knock search, for example, in this country we've allowed no-knock searches, which is a military tactic, where people can come in, use a battering ram, and tear down your door unexpectedly. It could be 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and we saw it happen with Breonna Taylor. That is a military tactic, and it should be banned immediately. What we're also calling for is, when we're hiring police officers, again, it's an inferior standard if you're talking about law enforcement. You can look throughout the nation. Most of the time when you see excessive force being used, it has been used by an officer who already had used excessive force before. And so what is happening is similar to what we have going on in Graham, North Carolina right now, where you have a police officer like Doug Strader, who was terminated in Greensboro for using 2 counts of excessive force. One of his counts of excessive force killed a black man by the name of Marcus Smith. And then another count of excessive force a year later, he's shooting inside an occupied vehicle. That got him fired, only to get him hired on March 1st in Graham, North Carolina. So what we're here to say is we can stop this. We can't keep telling people be peaceful, but we're going to keep killing you. We're here to say stop killing us. And enough is enough. And so that is why when these situations occur, we're not doing enough to prevent it on the front end as a nation because we're operating on an inferior standard, a double standard that must become lifted up to a standard that is humanely acceptable, that's acceptable by a civil society. That's not what we have now. And so there's going to be protests. But I'm not here to tell everyone I'm not here to tap dance and dance where there's no music and tell everybody to hush your mouth, be quiet. I'm not here to do that. It's time for America to make sure we have a sound system that is as superior or as super powerfully as we claim to be. Talk about law and order. We need a system and a law and order that is lawful and not disorderly. So we're here to say, as a part of what we are doing, as people who've been arrested, we need to see change, and we need to see it immediately. Last thing. We had the removal of students who were evicted out of their own class, out of their own schools, right here in Elizabeth City State University, to bring space or to be occupied by law enforcement. That is a shame. It's a disgrace. And y'all want to come over here? Stand behind them. Come on. Bring that. It is a shame. It is a disgrace where students are removed from their school, the only historically black college, university, HBCU in the city, is occupied by police. These are the types of decisions that we are saying there seems to be an attempt to escalate, not de-escalate. So don't keep doing what you are doing and call on the pastors to come out and say, hey, we don't want any violence, we don't want no trouble. Stop killing us. Stop being unjust. Stop doing wrong. As Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. would say, do what you said on paper. The Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, the 14th Amendment would have protected Brother Andrew Brown Jr. So if we will follow our own laws and become a civilized society and not hire police officers who we already know are killer cops, and make sure we have a standard that loves life, all life. And guess what? All lives will matter when black lives matter. Let's be straight. Let's not get it twisted. Don't tell us all lives matter while we are dying in the streets. All lives matter when black lives matter. I'm going to yield for a minute. I have a gentleman here, a young man. While I was sitting on the streets, I did not know who I would end up going to jail with or if I would go to jail. But two people sat beside me, a white lady by the name of Deanna Overton, I think, and then a white gentleman by the name of Dustin Sidebottom. So I'm sitting here beside these two people that I don't know. But it said to me they wanted to take a stand while we were seated. So we didn't do anything wrong. We made sure we were not being violent. We even sat down crisscross applesauce like we do in the nursery schools. So we could not be mistaken that we were there to do violence. Then came this young man. Before I knew it, I was just laying back because actually my back started hurting. So I was lying down on the ground for a while. And then I happened to put my fist up while I'm lying down, and then I see another black fist. I'm like, whoa, all right now. And so I did not know the gentleman, but all I know is it was it was music to my ears to see a young man decide he's not going to take it anymore. But he did it in a way that's violent. He didn't go out and try to break out a window. He didn't go out and try to blow up a police car. He came right there beside me, sat down, and it made me feel like we were making a difference. I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to turn it over to him. There was a young man, I wish he could have come today. And I said, I want to make sure you get this on tape. He said, sir, I was inspired. He said, I've never seen a preacher sit on the street and get arrested in my life. He said, I've heard about it, but I've never seen it here. So I just want to say that thank God that we made it out alive. We didn't know. Police all around us in riot gear. And as I reminded them, there was no riot here, but they were still there. So I'm going to turn it over to him and just let him say what made him do what he did. And then I'll take it back over. Yes, sir. God bless. And you can introduce yourself as you come up and spell your name.
Hello, my name is Adonis Jones. That is A-D-D-O-N-N-I-S. I am from Kinston, North Carolina, but I currently reside in Greensboro. I am not from Elizabeth City, as I just told you. I came out here to go attend Elizabeth City State University. And during my time out here, I ended up moving out here and staying out here and just ended up spending 5 years of my life. In this small city of 18,000 people, I know a good majority of them. I have fed them, worked at some of these restaurants, and they became my friends and family. I did not know Drew personally, but when he died, it came to me and I realized I have a daughter. I have a mixed daughter. She's of black and Puerto Rican descent. When I am looked at in this world, I am looked at as a thug, a gangbanger, a hoodlum.
Lord of mercy.
I own a business. Just started it. I'm a chef, been in the restaurant industry for almost 10 years. Serve Safe certified. When I was out there from all those police, all those riot gear, I'm not gonna lie, I thought I was gonna die tonight. I thought I was gonna at least get beat up a little bit. I was expected to get tased, maced, pepper sprayed. They threatened to fire non-lethal tactical ammunition at us.
They did.
For those that don't know what that means, that is your rubber bullets, your mace pellets, your shotgun bean bags. Those are still deadly if used in the wrong hands.
Right.
But if you're willing to use those on innocent people, those same procedures could have been used to serve that warrant on Andrew Brown, pardon me. I have a little brother named Andre Brown. So when I think of Drew dying, I think of my brother Dre as well. Because he looks just like me. Another black man. They get stereotyped. Those non-lethal ammunitions I was just speaking on, why wouldn't they use to serve that warrant on Drew? He still would be here today. A lot of people would still be here today. Seeing about 40 to 50 cops in front of my face with batons. Some of them look like they didn't want to be here. A few of them look like they did and they were ready to hit me. It made me think about why I'm doing this. I'm doing this for all of those children out there that look like me or that will look like me one day. I did that for them because if don't nobody do it, our same kids will keep dying. I cannot bury another brother, another sister, or another cousin. I can't, and I will not let that happen. When you go to the grocery store and you in the egg section, when you're looking for and shopping for eggs, you don't take the egg out that's bad or might be cracked and you don't put a new egg in. No, you look for a new carton of eggs and make sure that a whole dozen of eggs or 18 count is not cracked. It's not just about swapping out the few bad eggs and putting a few good ones in. We need to change the whole system. Why isn't every police officer, when they're being enlisted into a police academy, why aren't they going on a full psychological eval? And continuously going under said psychological eval? Because just because you're okay today, you might have a bad day tomorrow.
Come on, brother. Speak on it.
So with that being said, everybody should get a monthly checkup from a therapist. And if you're scared, if you are scared of being a police officer, pick a different career.
Come on.
It's like being a chef and don't like a knife. It's like being a doctor and don't like blood. Find something different. I'm tired of my brothers dying.
Come on now.
I traveled 4 hours to get here. I sped down the highway. Not in this little town that I know most of these people.
Lord have mercy.
Not in this little place where everybody is family. Where half of the people that stay in this city are black. We can't do this no more. There has to be change. And when we're peacefully protesting, and I'm looking at 30 plus armed police officers in full riot gear with shields, face masks, and all, that sends a wrong image to us.
Wow.
And for us to get locked up while peacefully protesting, oh, I don't know, but some of the media, I'm pretty sure that they didn't tell you, but some of the media also was arrested as well, or threatened to be arrested. And that is a violation of the First Amendment right as well. They don't care. These are a bunch of big brother, big boy groups of police officers that don't give a damn. They need to be changed, and they need to be fired. When us as a group of black people, when one of us is locked up for a crime and we're together, all of us are charged with that crime as an accessory to whatever degree it was. 4 of those 7 cops that shot Drew are back on the police force right now working. Right. Who's to say they won't be out there tonight when we're protesting peacefully again tonight for the 11th day in a row? Who's out to say I won't get shot this time? Because I will be out here. I have been out here since Monday. I've been out here since the day I got arrested, and I will keep being out here as long as possible. Even if that means putting my money and my business at halt.
That's right.
Change needs to happen, and change needs to happen fast. Because as much as people are being peaceful, you can't keep smacking and expecting me to turn my cheek. Because I'm going to run out of cheeks.
That's right.
We need those tapes, and the city wants to view those. So we don't care who, we want to see those tapes. I thank y'all for y'all time, and I hope that this message has when we'll give a change. I'm going to turn the floor back over to Reverend Gatewood.
Thank you. Wow, what a great message. Wow, to God be the glory. And like you said, you never know what God is doing when he's bringing people together. And I would have never known this young man, and many of you. And so the best thing I can say is that we must not let Brother Andrew Brown's death and his brutal treatment and his murder be in vain. We must rise to this occasion. I just want to just emphasize and rally up a couple of things that my dear young brother said that is a part of the movement that we have in the grassroots community. One of the things, again, we need a moral, when I say moral, I'm not just talking about for preachers and people to get up and say we talking about necessarily Jesus or Allah. It's fine if we want to talk about those things. When we're talking about a moral law, we're just talking about making sure you treat people right. Treat people right. And so the First Amendment is to be protected, number one. Do not tell us to be quiet. Do not keep pushing us. Because what you're doing, you are escalating. You are escalating when you do things that either violate the Constitution of the United States of America, or when you commit an injustice against black people, you are escalating. And I'm not here to say that we're going to be peaceful forever. I'm just telling it like it is. I'm not suggesting that people should use violence, but it's very hypocritical for America to send black people overseas to fight violently toward people we don't know. And you continue to allow the existence of white supremacist, racist terrorists and allow them to be heavily armed and ask us to be peaceful. If you want us to be peaceful, give justice. And if you want us to be peaceful, stop telling lies and sending us overseas to fight a war that's based on lies. If you want us to be peaceful. So don't ask us to be peaceful continuously while we are being sent to fight in fights that we do not belong in, and we're also being murdered on the streets. It is a shame, It is a sin, and as a pastor, there's such a thing as the good shepherd versus the hireling. The hireling is the one that Jesus described as the one who comes to get paid. He gets the money, he runs and leaves the sheep to be scattered by the wolves. The wolves of injustice, the wolves of racism, the wolves of white supremacy, the wolves of oppression, all those wolves. And then you see the black on black people, the gateway, why don't you speak on black, where all that can be traced to white supremacy as well. Because when you push black children out of school and you deny them the opportunities to be the best that they can be, and then you take the jobs away and send them overseas, and you put drugs in our communities, and you put guns in our communities, and you bring gang recruiters in our communities, you are setting them up to kill each other. So we are not stupid here. And then I had someone say, well, look, you talk about this white people killing us or the police killing us. Why don't you talk about the black people who are killing each other? So are you saying that the solution to black people killing each other is to bring police officers that we pay, that we train, that we buy your gun, we buy your badge, we buy your car, buy your clothes and your house, and now you're supposed to kill us when we are paying you through our tax dollars to protect us? You're gonna suggest it's the same thing for someone that you're oppressing, that you're pushing out of school, that you're not allowed to get the training and the opportunities? We're supposed to compare those people to the ones who are being trained, being paid, and supposedly serving and protecting. So we're tired of those things. Yes, we want all guns to stop. We want all dying to stop prematurely in the black community. We can say that. But I'll be damned if we're going to allow people that we are paying with our tax dollars, that we are training, and that you are claiming that you are serving and protecting, you're claiming that it's law and order, and you are lawless and disorderly. So I just want to say, I want to reiterate something he said about the 7 officers, and we might be finished, unless there's someone else who wants to. This is a big slap in the face. To take officers who were a part of this murder and say to them, since they didn't participate in the shooting, which is still questionable to us, we don't know who participated. You haven't released the tapes. So to suggest that, well, since you did not participate in the murder, then you're free to get back on the streets. Any black person can tell you, if you were ever riding with a black associate, and if he happens, even if you don't even know it, to pull out a gun and start shooting, you are right there in the middle of it. You are going to jail.
Going straight to jail.
Whether you brought out a gun or not. You're going to be guilty by association. They're going to say that you were aiding and abetting.
You knew what he was about to do.
And you will be charged. Well, why wouldn't it, if we have a just law enforcement system, to say if you were there, and if you did not immediately file a complaint, if I did not see you conspicuously saying, stop, don't do this, you can't do this, this is wrong, I'm going to file a complaint against you, you are wrong. Just to say because you did not shoot? No. We want to say to the sheriff, people who made this decision, it is wrong, it is immoral, it is criminal, and we want to make sure every police officer who was on the ground is a part of a thorough investigation by an independent source, including the federal investigation that should already be taking place. No one should be back on the streets who were a part of this murder. No one.
Amen.
And we on, can I hear amen?
Amen.
No one. So we want to make that clear. It's an attempt to escalate. It's an attempt to create a fight. It's an attempt to keep digging in our wounds that are already bleeding. They must stop. Media help us to tell them to stop. Stop killing us. Stop taking it lightly. So please mention the thing I said about the Elizabeth City University, Elizabeth City State University. That should not be occupied by police. Amen. They should not have been give them 48 hours to go home. That is absurd. That you're escalating.
Finals.
Yeah, you are escalating. They are escalating. And they're just saying peace, peace, peace. What I want to say to you is let's say peace to the people who are violent. And right now, the people who are violent is the police, the deputies over, right from the deputy's office, and others who are participating in these deadly arms, deadly acts of law enforcement. Any other?
Yes, we do have someone here from Philadelphia.
Okay.
Thank you,
I'll go
Pastor.
first.
Okay, great.
Yeah, we're
great.
both
Yeah.
from Philadelphia.
Okay,
Good.
great.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. And Pastor, thank you. Okay.
Yeah,
Pastor,
say it.
Pastor, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be able to really speak. My name is Lamaya Broussard. That's Lamya. B as in boy, Roussard as in dog. I am the founder and director of Coming Out More Equipped Consulting Services, where I focus on healthy lifestyle. It's 4 parts: healthy well-being, which is mental, emotional, spiritual, socially, healthy living, healthy eating, and healthy relationships. And what I'm here is, I'm here on faith today from Philadelphia. I have here my consultant as well as like the brainchild over everything behind my consulting services. We've been a part of the George Floyd protest by providing Black wellness and resiliency zones in Philadelphia, where we basically are there to provide de-escalation techniques to make sure that our advocates and our people that are out there advocating for us and losing so much as a result while we gain, losing their housing, losing their jobs, losing their wellness, their mental and emotional status. I've worked directly with advocates, well-known even advocates in Philadelphia who's suffering and because of fighting for us. And then we're looking at them and wondering why they're not striving more. And so it's so important while we're out here raising our voices and we're out here doing what is very human and our rights, as we said, and our First Amendment right, to make sure that we're well in the middle of it. So we provide techniques to make sure that when our heart rate is raised, that our people are able to lower through deep breathing and grounding exercises, whether it's handing out different things that appeals to the 5 senses, whether it's being able to do aromatherapy, whatever is needed to make sure that we are well, because we don't want to be dying in the process of trying to fight for justice, which is already happening. So I came on faith. When I heard you, I was laying in my bed getting ready to go to sleep, and I pulled up, I saw on my phone what was happening here, and I saw you speaking. And I am all for my sisters out here and all for the community and our LGBTQ. I love working with the community, but it's something about when you see black men that take their rightful place, because it is black men that are being killed. Don't just let it be mistaken that this is just black lives. Yes, it is black lives, but these are black men. And the darker your skin complexion, the worse it is. And so when I saw you standing in that liberation theology that you're speaking about, I'm a kingdom-minded Christian. And I understand the power of Jesus Christ being able to speak to what's happening in the country, in the community. So it is no coincidence that we're here. I told Miranda that, I said, we going down to Elizabeth. I don't know if they protesting. I don't know, but I'm coming in faith. Booked the room and came here and saw a sister standing on the corner that was out there. And she showed us, yes, Anita. And she told us where this was. And I looked at my sister and I said, you see, it's a reason that we're here. I told you God was going to provide. And so we'll be here, and we will be right here. And we will be providing this black wellness. Yeah, and the police was following her and watching her. And so as you talked about, that is escalating. And anytime we are escalated as human beings, we're going to get triggered and respond, especially when it comes to our humanity. This is our humanity. And so I said, we all have a role. This is trauma that we're going through. This is disenfranchised grief. I'm a clinician in the school systems in Philadelphia. I work with a private nonprofit. I do grief groups every day, and most of those students look like me. And most of them are males. And I work with them every day, but I do this outside and been doing COME since 2014. And so this is disenfranchised grief, invalidated grief by society. This is suffocated grief. Suffocated grief by Dr. Baudier, who she coined that term to speak about. That's not only when our grief is not invalidated, but is also penalized. So we're being arrested, we're being killed for protesting. Walter Wallace in Philadelphia died because he was having a mental health crisis. What does that tell you? Black people, especially our black men, can't even afford to have a mental health crisis. And you be killed in front of your mom, your community, your neighbors. That is what's called prolonged grief that they're going to be dealing with. This is all that we're dealing with as a black people, which is worse whenever the death is sudden and violent. And that's exactly what our brother Andrew Brown Jr. went through here, being killed, when there's so many other tactics that can be used. It's so many other, shoot the tires out, whatever you got to do. Shoot them in the foot if you have to do that. But those things don't happen. And whenever it's something that's continuously happening over and over again, just look at the numbers. We all about numbers and research. As the pastor said, you do not see, and I never want to see no one getting killed by police. But reality is you do not see white men lynching that's happening publicly. You don't hear about it. You don't see about it. Even as a black woman, I'm not as much as a risk as my black brother is. And so this is why I'm here. We're here. But we're here promoting the wellness. And I just want to close out. I am not a poet. I want to put this disclaimer out. But I want to just play real quick 1.5 minutes of a poem that God gave me in my spirit last year when everything was happening. And it is titled Police Brutality. Again, I am not a poet. This came directly from God, and I'm going to just play this for you all, and then I'll close.
Brutality from the police, the ones who's supposed to protect, serve, and give us security. Badge numbers, deep thunder in our souls. From suffocation, knees on our neck, and chokeholds. Hands up, don't shoot. Mama, I can't breathe. Please, officer, move your knees. Off my neck, off my back, off my life, off my rights. Civil rights or civil unrest. One have been taken in the night with no ability to protest. Hands up, don't shoot. That's the real cry. Got black male babies singing, I just wanna live. I don't wanna die. Question, where's the laws in this American place? Oh, I see. It wasn't really for my black race. Yet you're talking about loot? Shoot, the list goes on like the beat. Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd, Rashawn Brooks, etc. Just a smidget of the new black lives they, police, unjustifiably killed. For what? Resting in your own home, sleeping, jogging, and $20? Oh my God, it just make me want to holler. God, I promise I still have hope you will shower us with justice, mercy, grace, and strength, never to be devoured. Police brutality, no more to be quenched by my people's blood, sweat, and tears, because I still hear God of the slaughtered, weary years and silent tears, true to our God, true to our native land, not just talking about the red, white, and blue, but sacred Mother Africa, home of all blacks, yes, me and you.
Wow.
Amen. Thank y'all so much.
Love it. God bless you, dear sister.
Bless you, sir.
Wow. So we're going to ask if you have any questions before we close out. Are there any questions?
Reverend Gatewood,
Yes.
at the time of the 8 p.m. curfew, law enforcement did send out warnings that they were about to, that the curfew was about to end. How do you think that situation could have been handled better, and what are your thoughts towards the extension of the curfew?
The way it could have been handled better is they should have never had a curfew for Elizabeth City. That's the way it could have been handled better. I don't know what more we could have done. We're sitting on the ground with our legs crossed, showing that we are not violent, but we are not going to allow anyone to take our rights away while claiming they are making sure everyone is safe. If you can't make sure everyone is safe by abiding by the Constitution at the same time, then we have a problem here in America. I tend to believe that you can keep me safe while simultaneously treating me fairly. And so we sat down because of the fact we were being deprived of our rights. And if we're ever being deprived of our rights, we need to fight back one way or the other. I chose to fight back nonviolently.
Can you describe your experience when you were arrested?
Well, the thing that I think was the most outrageous is not how we were handled after the arrest, Because when we were actually taken in, we were treated nicely. People were asking, are the cuffs too tight? Do you want water? You know, they knew the world was watching. And so we were treated nicely. But the problem is, you're there in riot gear, rows of police officers, while there's no riot here. There was no riot. No one had, it's been peaceful all day. And we just saw police officers being beaten down by white terrorists. And no riot gear, no nothing. Why the riot gear, every time there's something done unjustly, or anytime you unjustly kill a black person, why do you come with riot gear? Is that a stereotype, or is that to make sure when you escalate, now you have a reason to kill more of us? Why do you come in riot gear? There had been no riot, so I think for the most part, the police officers get an F because they came in riot gear when there was no riot. And we've seen case in case again where white men are being violent, they're armed and dangerous, actually murdering, killing, and in some instances killing police officers. And there's no riot gear to be found. They're taken in without a scratch. But I don't know if they might have a scratch, but I'm just saying they're taken in alive. So that's where they failed.
So the city manager said yesterday that one of the reasons why they extended the curfew was because they're having less arrests. They counted them down for me. He said 7, 9, and 2 as of yesterday. Do you feel that is why they should extend it or should get rid of it, or what are your thoughts on that?
Again, the police department, the sheriff department, they need to do two things. They need to read the Bible and the Constitution of the United States of America. I don't know why they put their hands on a Bible that they never read, and they claim to be carrying out the Constitution of the United States of America that they never abide by. So if they're going to put their hands on the Bible, they need to, if they're not going to read the whole Bible, read the red. That's what Jesus said. That's where Jesus is talking. Amen. And then read the Constitution of the United States of America. The problem is they are not following the Constitution of the United States of America. So when she put the mayor put the curfew on, I shouldn't have had to say anything. I shouldn't have had to go to jail. We shouldn't have had to go through this because it wasn't necessary. It was unconstitutional. People were following the Constitution by protesting peacefully. So when you're protesting peacefully, that is constitutionally protected. So whether she's counting how many people are arrested, I don't know what that has to do with you following the Constitution. Whether it was 7, 5, 6, 0, follow the Constitution of the United States of America. You were elected to do so, and we won't have this discussion.
Reverend, what do you think that the sheriff's department here, you mentioned obviously eliminating no-knock warrants and releasing the body camera video. What other things do you think that local law enforcement what changes should they make in the future now?
Right, I'm glad you asked that question. First of all, this young man brought out a good point, and in fact, it's a part of our universal standards for law enforcement. I don't even think he really knew that, but we are part of the same spirit. He mentioned something that, first of all, we need to focus on the police officers that we are hiring. I gave you an example of how police officers who are committing multiple acts of excessive force, deadly force, are either staying on the job or when they're terminated, they go right down the street and get another job. When you do this, you are emboldening the person who committed the murder. You're saying to him, you can do it. You're going to get another job. We're going to look out for you. We have the blue wall of silence. We're not going to tell on you. And when you get to the judicial system, they're going to look out for you too because you're going to get white privilege when you get there. So they're not given any reason to follow the law right now. So it will take, number one, the changing of the rules and make it comparable to the Constitution that already exists. As Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, do what you say you're going to do on paper. We won't have this problem. Not only did you have the Constitution, but you had it amended for black people. You have amendments, and none of it's being followed. So my thing is, if we would just follow the Constitution, make sure when you hire police officers, make sure not only do you run a background check, because right here again in Graham, North Carolina, the police officer has committed 2 acts of excessive force, one leading to the death of a black man by the name of Marcus Smith 1 year, and then the next year he fires into a car. That's when he gets fired and come right down 30 miles down the road, and he's hired. So that's not even hard. If you commit excessive force, this is what we're saying. If you commit excessive force, and there are many ways that we can know when you commit excessive force. Number one, you should have on a body cam, you should have a dash cam. Oftentimes the community will be videoing you, and there will be evidence. Somebody will either be dead, beat up, or something like that. So when you commit excessive force, we're gonna know. So anyone who commits excessive force should be terminated immediately. We don't need to go to court if I got you right here killing somebody, committing murder. You are fired, okay? So terminated immediately. Then also, after being terminated, they should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, and then they should be banned from law enforcement within the jurisdiction of the United States of America, period. So that's one gone. We don't have to worry about him feeling empowered, feeling he can do anything. The next thing, again, we said check the backgrounds of white supremacist association. It does not matter how much you train a racist. It does not matter how much you give him diversity training. You can say whatever you want to say to him. We can march day and night. You can do whatever you want to. If you are hiring white supremacist racists who belong to terrorist groups such as the skinheads, the KKK, bad boys, proud, whatever they call themselves, these boys, when you are hiring someone that you know to be a racist, or you did not do your job to make sure they were not a racist, then that person is waiting on his chance to murder black people. No matter how many times you say don't do it. So, checking background. They could do that right here locally. They could start right now, making sure, not only, don't wait until they're getting hired. Who do you have on your staff now? Let's check every one of them's background.
Congress is about to start negotiating and talking about the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. What do you want to say to Congress and congressional leaders who are about to start flipping through the pages of that bill?
Well, it's actually too little too late. But they still need to do something. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not going to be here just jumping for joy because they're doing what they're supposed to do according to the Constitution. What they should do is they should be doing much more, and they should be doing it earlier. We need to be, we're still going through this debate. We're still going through Congress. It's still tiptoeing through the tulips. It really makes me sad to still have to have this conversation. It didn't have to, it's been the same conversation since slavery, since the slave patrols. Do y'all get that? This is not new. This is not new. Why would it take us to have to put together a better standard than the actual so-called experts that are being paid lots of money? We have 18 points right here. I'm not going to read all of them, but I'm just going to give you just a brief example. No-knock searches. While you're tearing people's houses down, you're using military tactics to kill people. Eliminate the blue wall of silence. While you're acting as if other white people, police officers can't tell on the other when they know they're committing crimes. Universal standard of having a zero tolerance for white supremacists in law enforcement. That meant checking their background to make sure they're not affiliated with any white supremacist group. Demanding transparency, what we're here arguing about right now, making sure videos, everything that's supposed to be working to protect the public is in fact available for the public so it can be reviewed so that we'll know that the person did not commit wrongful acts. Making sure that there's an establishment of a community citizen review board that has teeth, not one that's controlled by the police department. Making sure that all agencies maintain records. We're finding that sometimes people are not keeping records of what they're doing out in the streets. They need to have a record of everything that they're doing, especially if it has any contact with anyone in the public. We're demanding that, what the brother said right here, universally demand that all police officers, law enforcement agencies are given random drug tests, regular mental health tests, psychological fitness testing, while we're assuming that police officers are not on drugs, while we're assuming that they're mentally prepared for this job, while we're assuming that that we can just let these people work without doing these things on a regular basis, as he recommended. It's right here. He didn't even know I had it in here. We universally demand that anytime any law enforcement officer who punishes a person who's in handcuffs be automatically terminated, prosecuted to the full extent of the law, and banned from law enforcement anywhere within the jurisdiction of the United States of America. So in other words, these things would have saved George Floyd. They would have saved Breonna Taylor. Again, right here in number 11, university demand that law enforcement officials be prohibited from using any method of choking, whether it's on the knee, whether it's on the neck, whatever method you're using, it should be abolished. End of discussion. Shouldn't even be a debate. Once you do it, you should be terminated, prosecuted to the full extent of the law, never working in law enforcement again. And just going down, university demanded all police department agencies within the jurisdiction of the United States of America, you live within the jurisdiction where you work. We have a lot of police officers who don't know the people that they're working with, and so they come in shooting little children with guns. You have a child playing with a gun. You don't know the child. You see him. You think he's black and he has a gun, so you kill him. But also remember that officer too, to prove what we were saying here. The officer that killed Tamir Rice, again, was another officer who had been fired because he was considered to be emotionally unstable. He was given his gun back, hired again in Cleveland, the Cleveland Police Department, and again, there we go seeing another baby having to die as a result. It's not hard, and I could go on. So we have plenty of solutions.
Have you had a conversation with the police chief or the sheriff this week?
Have I had a conversation? No, I have not. To tell you the truth, this is what I've been doing. I've been meeting people like this young man right here. We have people who claim they're meeting with the sheriff, and I hope to do so at some point. But first things first, our sheep, as the Lord, and I'm referring to the Lord's sheep, I don't have sheep, but God does. His sheep need to be cared for during these times. I've been in the streets. I worry about them. They need to be loved. They need to be given attention. They need to be cared for. And so first thing first, if you're killing my sheep, I'm going to be with the sheep, and if necessary, die with the sheep. So they can tell you, I was out at night walking around with these people. We have people like NAACP and other people who are meeting all the time with the law enforcement. That's not the problem. They're going to meet, and then they're going to go right back and do what they do. We need to organize the streets because, as it's been said, the oppressor will go as far as he can until he gets to the point of resistance. I don't care who meets with him. I don't care who he pays, what hireling he meets with. He is going to do what he does until there's an organizing of the streets. And when the streets rise up and resist that oppressor, that's when he's going to stop. So I'm more interested in organizing the streets right now. Hopefully at some point we can meet.
Reverend, can you describe the moment that when you were taken into custody and also what charges you're facing as a result?
Describe the moment when I was arrested?
Yeah.
I mean, again, it looked like it was an intimidation tactic more than an arrest. Because, first of all, they didn't need all that to arrest me. They didn't need to bring all those people and all those batons and, and they announced it 100 times. Now, I will give them this. We were warned. I can't lie about that. They said it several times. You will be arrested. And like he said, they just started talking about what they were going to use against us, the different methods that we might get if we don't get out of the streets. So they ran it down. So I can't say we were not warned. But what I would say is nothing they did was necessary. I mean, a whole big show of coming up with their batons. And it was a show. I'm like, what are y'all doing? You look like fools.
What was their charge that you mentioned? What did they charge you for?
They charged me with disorderly conduct, which I was not disorderly, and they charged me with violating the ordinance of the Elizabeth City ordinance of violating the curfew.
Mr. Jones, were you charged with the same?
Yes, I was.
Yeah, so.
Was it just like a return to like a court summon kind of thing?
No, they are probably going to try to prosecute us on my court
June
date is-
10th. That's what mine is. I don't know when yours is.
Mine says July 15th.
Okay, so I think
So-
we must have a different court date. I
Yeah.
have to go back and check.
Yeah, we
But I think
we
mine
need to
says
get bottom of
Juneteenth.
that.
Yeah.
We need to get
But
to the bottom
either
of that.
way, they did not I think they dismissed some cases. Did they dismiss some? The last two? I think they I think they dismissed with the Don Blake Road. They didn't. Okay.
Oh.
But anyway, so my court date is June 10th.
Mine is July 15th. I'll be back here in Pasquotank County,
So
serving the same charges he's facing as well.
Reverend, when this started, Elizabeth City Police were one of the first to help with escorts perspective on the people that are sworn to protect you, especially in this city?
When you said the police were the first to do what?
They were the first to help with escorting when this first began, when the walks first started. They were the ones that were escorting. And then seeing them involved in this with the arrests and the riot here, did that change your perspective?
Well, they never changed my perspective one way or the other. I don't trust the police. And I'm going to say that because, you know, I'm hearing this, that the police are doing a great job, and I'm going to take that with a grain of salt. I'm cautiously optimistic anytime I hear someone say that, because I do know it's a systemic problem, not necessarily a good police chief or a good law enforcement officer here or there. We are fighting a system of white supremacy. Let's not be mistaken. And so when you're dealing with that system, it's just going to be a matter of time unless there is a clear implementation of all the things that we have on this list here. Now, I don't know if the president or some of the other people here, I will admit I'm not from Elizabeth City. But I also believe Dr. King was right when he said a threat to justice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So therefore, it's a foolish thing for people to act as if a person from out of town is supposed to be a problem. Unless you think you have the people in town under control, and you haven't had the opportunity to control those who are coming in. And so, but other than that, we are all a family. We're interwoven into the fabric of humanity. And therefore, we are not divided by geographic boundaries. We are human beings. And so, and I feel the same way about my brothers, whether they be in Iraq, whether they be in Somalia, wherever they may be. They are human beings first. But we've allowed people to think because we have these geographic boundaries or these national boundaries and all these other things that we're not supposed to look at everyone as a human being. So I came here. I don't know all the politics that's going on here, but I do know one thing. The first thing I do, I don't come looking for the politicians to shake hands. I look for the people who are on the streets, and that's what I've been doing thus far.
I will add to your statement about Elizabeth City Police and they are helping out. They're not. A man actually pulled a gun out on protesters a few days ago, and it took how many phone calls? 5 phone calls to get a police department, a police officer, down to the scene where there's already police officers.
They wanted us to walk to the police station.
They told the people, the victims of said crime, to walk to the police station and file a complaint.
See, that's why
When you're as a police officer standing right there and witness said crime. So no, Elizabeth City Police Department is not helping. They are definitely not helping at all. And I will say that to the ones that are walking around, and I do see y'all back there. I have seen the ones back there that have came and drove past. You are not helping us. You're only making the problem worse. And you, at one point, this riot gear you are wearing, you're going to need, because people are not going to keep taking this. We're not. We'll keep beating people as long as possible, but like the Reverend said, at some point, I'm going to get tired of being peaceful, because it's clearly not getting us nowhere.
Well, let me say this, and then if you have any other questions, feel free. I also question this notion that the police are really being good when they block off all the streets.
Swarm us in.
See, check this out. I tried to get into Elizabeth City. I came on Saturday. That was one of the most difficult things I've tried to do is coming into a city where I wanted to be with people to let them know I love them. I had the hardest time. I was turned around 3 or 4 different times. So I'm thinking there must be 1 million people out here marching or something. All these roads that were closed off, all the times that I'm told to turn around. And to the point where I did not know which way to go. Had it not been for the fact I did know someone who lived in Elizabeth City that I could call, like the president of the NAACP. Had it not been for that, I probably just turned around and I would have given up. And I'm just wondering how many people did they turn around who may have wanted to be a part of these peaceful protests by acting as if we're helping to make sure you're okay, but we're blocking off all the streets almost in every turn that would lead into the city. So there are some things that we have to look at that we can be protected without going to such an extreme. And again, another example of the extreme is the curfew. Another example of the extreme is to have Elizabeth City State University students to go home or move right before exams, to bring police officers in and have them to occupy our only HBCU in this city. It's a slap in the face.
42,
It's not necessary.
42 straight troopers were sent from Raleigh, North Carolina, down to Elizabeth City. He's from Burlington. I stay in Greensboro. There are Burlington police officers here. Salisbury, Halifax, people in North Carolina. How do you feel about your tax dollars and your taxpayers? They're not even policing your city that they're assigned to police. They're down here messing with peaceful protesters. The money I pay for, the money y'all pay for. How does that make y'all feel? Y'all are probably understaffed right now in y'all cities because they're down here worrying about us getting together and standing for a man that died. An unarmed, innocent man. No matter if he was serving a warrant or not, it says we are all innocent until proven guilty by a court of law.
Correct.
So therefore, I don't care what I did or you accuse me of doing until 12 jury of my peers, and not the white peers, not the old white Dick and Tom that I've never seen a day in my life. That's not my peer.
Okay?
That is a man that is going to automatically put me in jail because all he sees is a nigger. And I hate to say it on national TV, but that is all he sees.
They say it.
An uneducated black man that didn't go to college, but I did. That doesn't own a business, that don't work, but I do.
Come on now.
They can't tell a word or speak eloquently with a proper amount of diction. It doesn't make any sense. I'm tired of it. Everybody's tired of it.
Amen.
It needs to change. It needs to change today, not tomorrow, not last year. And if you are not fixing the problem, you're part of the problem.
Right. I want to just make sure we clarify something because I know how media works. When it's said that you can't just keep asking us to be nonviolent or some violence could occur, that's not a threat from us.
Not at all.
I want you to understand that. It's a statement to say to human beings, do not push and continue pushing human beings more and more into the dungeon of oppression. Do not keep pushing and keep saying, well, make sure you're peaceful. You be peaceful. The sheriff needs to be peaceful. The legislators need to be peaceful. Because when you sign bad legislation, you may not be shooting us at gunpoint, but you're killing us at pinpoint when you sign bad legislation to take jobs away and to take educational opportunities away and to take wages away and to charge us more taxes than you're charging the wealthy. So when you're doing these things and you just keep saying to black people, be peaceful. Oh, by the way, we want you to join the army so we can send you to kill somebody that you don't know, but you be peaceful. In other words, and we don't even hear be peaceful when black children are killing each other. Only be peaceful if racists are killing you. Don't do anything back. Don't say anything back. Don't fire back. Keep your mouth shut. If racist, but as long as we are killing other folk across the seas or wherever you send us to kill someone, you don't have to be peaceful. It's hypocrisy. It's wrong. And as they are chanting in the streets, and this is the only thing they're saying, no justice, no peace. If you want peace, don't keep telling black folk to be quiet, to sit down, give you a curfew, go home. If you want peace, give justice. Let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. And if they read that Bible that they keep putting their hands on, that they never read, there's a thing in Isaiah that I like to end by, if possible. Woe to those who make unjust laws, to those who issue oppressive decrees that deprive the poor of their rights and withhold justice from the oppressed of my people, making widows their prey and robbing the fatherless. And in the book of Michael, if they would just read that, what does the Lord require? But to do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with our God. Thank you very much. Thank you. God bless you.
point across, right?
Amen. Thank you,
Across.
man. You did a great job.
I appreciate it, man. What's up? I put you one item for us. No, two D's and two N's. For those that did not spell my, did not get my correct spelling of my name, it is A-double-D-O-double-N-I-S. Please do not get that wrong. I will call your news station and tell you to correct that.
Okay.
I'm gonna talk to him.
Thank you, brother. God bless you. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, thank you.